Hello, everyone. Welcome to the National RENC meeting. I'm really excited to have a very special guest today, Mr. Will Denker. We're actually here in Houston, Texas, and you might hear a little bit of activity going on in the background. We're at the Quest IRA office, and they've graciously allowed us to come here and have our interview together. We do a lot of business with Quest IRA. I know you do a lot of business with Quest IRA, so they're
awesome.
kind of a friend and partner of ours. So you may hear a little bit of other activity going on. That's just some people getting ready for another meeting we're about to have. So Will, thank you so much for being here today. I know you and I have sort of become friends over, I guess, about the last year or so.
Year
Is that
and a
right?
half,
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on to kind of talk to you and introduce you to some of our followers and listeners is that I love what you do. I have a great deal of respect for what you do. You've impressed me to no end. Every time I talk to Will, just to give you an example, every time I talk to Will, he's going to a closing or getting out of a closing or about to go and get a house under contract or just got a house under contract. And you think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. One of the times that I ran into Will, it was at a party, and he told me he had like 38 houses under contract already that month.
18.
I'm sorry,
We
18.
closed 18 houses.
They closed 18 houses. I mean, so
It was a record month.
It was a
It's
record
normal.
month. It was a great month, and I mean that's a great month for anybody. Will primarily focuses on wholesaling. Will has some really incredible philosophies, and one of his really strong suits is the ability to focus. And trust me, I've tried to pull Will in different directions on many times, and I probably still won't give up on that. But Will has an incredible power of focus. In fact, I'm hoping you'll kind of give us some of your daily mantras at some point today during this interview, just to kind of show people how important that process is, because you see a lot of investors who don't spend a lot of time focusing and are all over the place and very much have a shiny penny. And every time that I talk to you, Will, it's you always talk to me about your time and your time commitment and understanding. Even today, to get him to come to this interview, it's like, okay, well, here are my different trade-offs, and I could show you guys the text from last night. But basically, as we were sort of figuring out what time we were going to have this interview today, he's like, well, I've got 2 closings, so I need you to give me an exact time on the interview, because we're doing this and we're doing this. I've got to work you in. So great person to learn from. Just a lot of knowledge and just a lot of great foundations, fundamentals, and philosophies, and that's why I want to bring you here to share. He's probably never heard me gush this much about him, but this guy's the real deal, and I love surrounding myself and introducing you guys to people of integrity, people of purpose, and people who really get stuff done. And you are just the absolute epitome of that.
Thank you.
Is there anything? So I've spent a little bit of time talking about you. Can you tell us how long have you been investing? How long have you been doing this?
I've been saying 7 to 8 years, and it's getting closer to 10 now.
Okay.
So it's been an incredible journey, and I mean, every day the more I learn, the more I realize I don't know about real estate. So it's just constant, from the beginning to now. It's been a great journey of working on myself, learning the skills, and every day it's growing and learning. So it's been a great journey.
I meet a lot of people personally, and I'm sure you do too, who say, I've seen it all, I've done it all, I know it all, and they're shut down to learning. And you're not like that. And
that's when you stop growing.
And that's when you stop growing. I'm a student of the market. One of the things I always say that I love about real estate is I learn something new every single day.
Yes.
And once you kind of become that know-it-all, that's when you start to slip.
Right.
But I'm sure you meet people like that from time to time. They'll say like, son, I'll tell you back when such and such. And
it's absolutely, I mean, I learn something new every day. Even like, talking to Quincy about buying and different things, there's always a different opportunity, a different angle to look at it. My journey is I make the best decision with the information I have today, but next week I might have new information
Right.
that completely changes what I'm doing or the path that I'm going down. And so a lot of people, when they're getting started, they look at it, oh, it didn't work. No,
Right.
The plan changed, but the
Right.
goal is to be successful in real estate still remains the same. If the goal is to get to Austin, you ride a bike, you get a flat tire, Well, my plan changed. I'm going to take a cab. But the goal remains the same. You always want to have a goal in mind of where you're going to, because the path, if you get off course, where's the goal? It's over there, and you get back on track.
What are some of the things that you consistently do to stay a student of the market, to put yourself in a position to continue to learn, so that before you hit that bump in the road or that flat tire, you see that flat tire coming, so you make an adjustment before you get there? What are the types of things that you do to kind of keep that open mind and keep that learning part of your being?
Since the beginning, 2 questions since I started and still today that I ask is, how do I find a deal? And that's changed.
Okay.
And how do I get this deal to close? And now I add quickly.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I didn't have that much experience. It was, how do I find a deal? I would try something, because a lot of people say, I can't find a deal. Well, if you tell yourself that, you're right, you stop. How do I find a deal? You start taking that step in that direction. So I asked that question, how do I get this deal to close? Sometimes you have title issues. I don't know anything about title. You call the title company. Hey, what do I need to do to get this deal to close quickly? Well, we need to do an airship affidavit or whatever it is. Okay, so how do we do that? You fill it out, you do this. Okay, once I do that, what's the next step I need to do to get this property to close quickly? Well, you might need to do this, or give me a day, we'll process it, we'll let you know. That's how I learned about title, is I would call every day, ask that question. They would tell me exactly what to do. Title issues, clear it up, then we get the deals to close.
So most people, when they run into a probate type transaction or an airship type issue, they just say, I don't know how to do this. How do you get kind of over that hump and say, let's figure this out? I've done some airship affidavits myself, and typically, the way that I do it, I actually personally interview the person who needs to fill out the form. I don't send it to them and say, that's part of like the quickness to close,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if you just kind of get into the situation where, I sent them the form, or I called them yesterday and left them a voicemail, or I sent them an email yesterday, they just haven't gotten back to me. I don't, when I'm doing something that's complex like that people look at it, then they say, what the heck is this? I have no idea. I personally concierge style them through it. So how do you, and I know you meet a lot of other investors, how do you explain to them, it's okay, you'll get through this, it's a process? I mean,
I don't have all the answers, or I didn't in the beginning, and I knew that.
Did you throw away some deals in the beginning because of that?
Probably, I think. I mean, looking back now, were there deals that I could have done because I didn't have the information? I'm sure, absolutely. But that's part of the learning process. If I didn't have that deal that didn't work, I wouldn't be able to look back and learn that lesson. There's lessons in every single deal. The reason I'm able to pick out the better deals is because I've done all the not so good deals, and I'm able to differentiate between the two.
Right.
So it's all about, to me, experience and things like that. A lot of people, when they get started, they put this number, I need to make this wholesale fee. And then, they try to make a round peg in a square hole.
Right.
But there's a learning curve that's there, and you put all that pressure. If you just focus on doing your first deal and just make $1,000 assignment or a $0 assignment, your goal is now completely different. The pressure of the money's gone, and the biggest game changers after you do your first deal. You realize that it's doable, that you can do it, it really works, and you just get these endorphins. I mean, everything changes. After you do your first deal, everything changes.
I could not agree more. Tell us about your first deal.
My first deal in real estate was it was a while back, but I remember I wanted to buy a house, and I was living in a townhome at the time. I didn't have a job. I had bad credit. I wasn't working, so I didn't pay the credit cards. I was new to the credit card thing.
Your wife left you. Your truck broke down. Your dog died. Yeah, go on. That sounds familiar.
But I remember, I was in the townhome. We'd been there, and I wanted to. It started off with wanting to buy the townhome. I couldn't because of credit. Didn't even have a job at the time, and I wanted to buy a house. And I remember I had my credit issue, and then I had income issue. And I remember, for some reason, I just focused. Well, the first thing I know I need is I'm going to need a down payment on a house. I remember making that decision. I'm going to buy a house. Didn't know when, didn't know how, but I made the decision. And a friend of mine lived in a house his dad gave him or whatever. He bought another house, so his dad was selling it, and I knew it needed a lot of work. So I called him up and said, hey, if you buy the paint materials, I'll go in and fix it up, pay you back for the paint materials, and whatever we make, we'll split. I was thinking I could, save up a couple of grand and that start my down payment money. He didn't want to do it. He says, no, I'm not really interested. He goes, why don't you buy the house? And I was like, oh man, I can't buy the house unless you own or finance it. And he says, well, I'll own or finance it. And I was like, back it up.
Oh, crap. Someone said yes. Oh,
yeah.
crap. And that's what a lot of investors go through. It's like, well, then I'm going to come up with some other barrier or reason or fear or excuse that I can't. So what?
And
that was your crap.
I started backing up.
Backpedaling,
I was like, no. I just need down payment to get a house. And here's the house, So very, very reluctantly, and a friend pushing me to buy it, I ended up buying the house. I had to pay closing costs and title policy, which ended up being $2,000.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the money. I didn't have a job. I was doing this whole project to come up with down payment money. So what I did is I had a roommate at the time. I said, man, we're moving out of here. You need a place to stay. First month's rent's $400. Deposit's $400. I got another roommate, same thing. So I got $1,600. And so I came up with $400 and bought my first house. So, and that,
did you guys catch that? So he got a down payment, not a down payment, but he got a deposit and first month's rent from some buddies of his who were going to move into this house. And that's how he was able to afford the closing costs on this particular property. That's pretty cool. That's pretty sneaky. And that's a great perfect example of, showing people how to think outside of the box and not just look inside their pockets and say, I don't have it, or there's no way I can have it. That is definitely a creative way to be able to come up with this. And to get to where you ultimately want to go, you sometimes do have to think outside of the box like that. So you got the money for the closing, you closed. What was your next step?
Now, I wasn't buying the house to invest. It was just for me to live in. That entire time from that decision, within 2 months, I was in a house, which, I was thinking it would take years. So I ended up, bought the house, needed a lot of work, started fixing it up. And during that time, I got into handyman, fixing up houses, lived in the house for about 4 years, completely redid everything. And I kept hearing about real estate, flipping houses. So I kind of made the decision. I looked at hard money. I can't do that, and put all these obstacles that people put themselves in. Mm-hmm. And so for me at the time, what I did was I sold my house that I bought, almost 4 years to the day. Everything I had, bed, apartment, moved in to the apartment, and I used that as seed money to do my very first deal.
How much? Do you mind telling us how much you made on that first deal?
We bought the house for $58,000, and I sold it almost 4 years to the day for $158,000.
Okay, so that's $100,000, and the other really cool thing about that $100,000 is
I lived in the house for.
So you took it tax free,
right? Because
you took advantage of the 1997 Homestead Exemption Act, which is
right.
really, really cool. We tell people all the time that they should consider doing that because they can get a lot of those gains absolutely tax free. And for me or you to make $100,000 tax free, we really have to make more like $150,000 to $200,000 because of taxes. That's huge, and that's an incredible story to kind of build up that seed money. And you had to make some sacrifices, and you had to make some changes, and you looked at your balance sheet and your assets, right? And you said, I've got the money to do this business, but I have to get out of my comfort zone. I've got to move again. It sounds like you maybe downgraded from a house to an apartment, but you made the sacrifice because you saw this bigger picture. So now that you've got, and I do want to be careful because that's an awesome story, but I do want to be careful because I know that a lot of you out there, maybe say, well, now Will has $100,000, so how can I relate to Will? Because I don't have $100,000 and I don't have this opportunity in front of me. So tell me. And I know you didn't use all of that $100,000 to invest, and I know you were still looking for other zero down type opportunities. What was your next step after that? What was your next deal after that? How did you parlay that into a business as opposed to a hobby? Because that's what it sounds like it was.
When I made that decision to move, and it wasn't quite 100, I did have some liens and loans
Sure.
and credit cards to
Okay.
pay. And I didn't know exactly the path that what was going to happen next.
Okay.
I just kind of went on faith.
Okay.
I knew I was going to be in real estate in some capacity, and it just drove me. It's just kind of one of those things. The next thing I know, house is sold, moved.
Yeah.
And I think, so then I started looking. I started looking around for education. I didn't know of any major education out there. I didn't know about wholesaling. I heard about it, but didn't know anybody that taught wholesaling. But I had the money. And a friend of mine called me up because he knew I just sold the house. I was going to get into real estate. He said, my mother-in-law is selling a house, pain in the butt kind of thing. I remember looking at it, running the numbers, and what were the numbers? I don't know. I just remember I was scared, had a bunch of money. What should I offer? Well, if I do this, and I didn't know about closing costs, and, so, but I ended up buying my first deal. I used cash. And then remember there was tenants in the house. So I knocked on the door, said, hey, I bought the house. They're like, oh, we wanted to buy it. I'm like, sorry, get out. I'm going to rehab the house. They said, well, the kids are in school and this and that. And so I remember I was telling them, I was like, okay, you've got 2 months, but I'm going to fix up the house during the interim. Mm-hmm. And so I think the next week I did the roof, spent like $1,700, got that done. And they kept asking me, I was like, well, what are you going to sell the house for? And so I gave them a number. And, they said, well, we want to buy it. I was like, well, go to your bankers, because I'm not going to own or finance the house. And, which I didn't know, looking back, there's always lessons. But, so they, went to the bank. They said, well, we need a contract. Well, what do you need a contract for? It's like, so we can buy the house. No, did you go to your banker? Yeah, they're the ones who need the contract, and I'm like, give me your bankers.
You're thinking they're wasting your time.
Right.
Yeah. To buy more time staying in the house.
Approved.
Yeah. Yeah.
They ended up buying the house. I did no repairs on the house.
Other than the roof.
Roof. And I got all my money back and then some. And I was like, wow.
This works, right? This works.
I was blown away.
Yeah.
Because I had more than doubled my money.
So your first 2 deals came from just friends, came from acquaintances, came from telling people what you do. A lot of times, we tell our students that marketing is so many different things. Marketing is notifying and updating your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook information, creating new business cards, just talking to people, telling them what you do, and sort of relating that story. And for me personally, a lot of our great deals come from just talking to people, and people who aren't necessarily into real estate, but I can almost guarantee you that at least one person that who's in your sphere of influence or one of the spheres within those spheres has someone who has a house that has a problem. And that's always a fun way to get involved in real estate. The problem is, how do you replicate that? And that's where it doesn't, like for me, we'll get some of these one-off deals every couple of months that happen like this, but we can't make a business out of it. And you probably, came to that conclusion fairly quickly. And I know you're a systems guy, and I know you believe in marketing. So what was your next step in transitioning to sort of this broader system where you had that record month and you closed 18 deals?
It actually, now that, because those first 2 deals were friends. I didn't even click to it. So the very next deal I did, I put an ad. I think it was in the Green Sheet, a local paper.
So you started your marketing.
So I started my marketing, and I remember a lady called me and said she wanted to sell her house. Well, how much do you want? And I remember it was the first ones I always remember. But she says, I'd like you to make me an offer. And so immediately, I hadn't pulled comps or anything, and I said, well, would you take 10 for it? And I didn't know. I just asked, and she was like, oh, Lord, yes. And I was like, oh, good or bad, I don't know.
Right.
So I ran to the computer, pulled up the comps. It was a $70,000 house. So I immediately went out and looked at it. It needed a lot of work. Mm-hmm. So I went through, I called her back, and I said, well, there's a big hole in the bathtub, this and that. And I was basically just telling her about the house, and I could hear her voice kind of dropping, like, oh, he's not going to buy it. And I said, well, tell you what if we just close in a week? I'll close cash, and I'll buy it for $8,000. She goes, oh, let's do it. So I ended up buying the house for $8,000. So email list, everybody has your buyer's email list. So I emailed my list, waiting for the response. Didn't get any response. Emailed them again. And then I remember, because I had one person on my list, so I just called him. It was a buddy of mine. Hey, man, you want to buy this house? I got in touch with a home investor franchise that called, and my friend. I ended up selling it to my friend for 28.
Okay.
And but I made that
Having
contact.
done no repairs on it.
Nothing.
Okay.
I just turned around and sold the house. That was another one. I was like, holy, this is why everybody gets into real estate.
Right.
It was a very easy road. So ended up selling the house to my friend. He bought it, and then I went to work for the home investor franchise.
Okay.
And he hired me on as a buyer. Set up a pay schedule. Worked there for a couple of months. And then just started closing deals, because they had leads, I didn't. And then ended up meeting another guy that started marketing. He actually built a little website, started getting leads. Hey, can you run this lead? So I ended up running the lead, ended up closing. Things kind of went south at the home investor franchise.
Okay.
And so the guy that was doing the leads says, hey, man, why don't we go start a business? I'll bring the leads, you run them, and we'll split them 50-50. And I was like, okay. I didn't have anything else going on. So we ended up getting an office, and I remember it was right around the week of Katrina. And I was running maybe 15, 20 leads, only internet leads, because I didn't know about marketing at the time. And we ended up, the week of Katrina, everything closed, just boom, got everything done because the hurricane was coming.
Sure.
So I remember I met him in the parking lot, and I gave him a check, and I said, hey, here's your check. I handed him a check for, I guess it was $37,500. And he was like, holy cow. He goes, man, when I get back, I'm going to cash this. I said, no, that's your half. That week we made $79,500 in wholesale fees. And at that point, it was, it was amazing. We had started out of the door, I don't know if it was 30, 90 days or whatever it was, but that was a phenomenal week. And so everything at that point became about marketing.
There you go. So
marketing.
One thing that I do want to go back to that I try and it's something I try and really hard to instill in all of our students is just make offers. Throw spaghetti on the wall. Most of it will not stick, but some of it will. So you made this $10,000 offer, and holy crap, it stuck. And not only did it stuck, like you were like, oh crap, it's what do I do now? I offered too much. So a lot of people, and so you made the offer, and then you went back to go and do the analysis. And then after you did the analysis and saw 70, then you went to go and look at the house. A lot of investors take a little bit of an opposite approach. A lot of investors will say, okay, well, sounds interesting. Well, tell me what repairs are needed. Tell me how much is owed. Kind of go through this entire process. Then go to the computer to look at the comps. Then go to the house to go and see how much repairs need to be made. Then kind of go and think about it, and then might or might not call back and make an offer on the property. That's the, ready, aim, little bit adjustment, aim, not sure, something else came up and distracted me. Oh, I don't want to, you forget about it. The way that you did it is the way that I like to do it, which is ready, fire. Okay, then I go back and aim and see if my aim was right. And you went back and so you readied, you fired at 10. Then you went and did the research and you said, ooh, this looks good. Then you went to the house and you said, ooh, this still looks good, but let me see if I can sort of renegotiate it a little bit more. So you ready, fired, and then aimed. That is a philosophy that a lot of people feel so uncomfortable with. Can you explain how you just sort of like threw that number out? And
the strategy in my head.
And that confidence that allowed you to throw away.
It was a question.
Then what was it?
It was
just
a question.
Okay.
If I could close, would you take 10? Well, no. Would you take 10?
If I could close, I hope you guys are writing this down.
Would you take 10 grand for the house? And one of the strategies, and that taught me always ask the question.
Right.
In the beginning, if you talk to somebody and the house is worth 100, needs 10 in repairs, well, I'd like you to make me an offer. Well, would you take 10? Well, no, the house is worth more than that. I got to get at least 40. I know where he's at.
Great.
And it's not, I'm going to buy your house for 10. Would you take 10?
Right.
And to me, it's just a question to feel out where she's at.
Right.
It's not a commitment. Because I can go look at the house. Well, 10's going to be a little high. I don't know if I can go that, You can always come back and negotiate. It's just a simple question.
So a lot of people are afraid to throw out an offer like that, and they're afraid that I'm going to insult someone, I'm going to get yelled at. I mean, how often does that happen with you?
Not very often.
But what do you do when it does? Because, I mean, like, there's that fear, right? So the fear is what stops a lot of people from making that initial offer. So
Question. I word it as a question.
Okay, go ahead.
When you say offer, you feel locked in like you have to buy the house.
Okay.
To ask that question, and some people, the few that might get offended, you're not going to buy their house probably anyway because they want retail.
Okay.
So it saves all that time.
Okay.
I want to work with the client that wants my help, that needs my help.
Right.
I can't buy every house, but
Right.
I can help every client.
Well, and you really take a lot of time to differentiate and make distinctions between a motivated seller and a not motivated seller.
Yes.
And there are a lot of investors who find that not motivated seller and go crazy trying to turn it into a deal, and that's a really hard road to go down. Versus having a motivated seller who's like, I've got to do this like quickly. That's a much easier track
Yes.
to go down. So and for you don't have a whole, it's very easy for you to distinguish between those two and make a choice to go with this one because you're giving yourself so many opportunities marketing, so you don't have to chase down the stuff
Right.
that's not motivated. So
That's key.
so tell us a little bit about how much marketing you do, just kind of put it in perspective for people, how many letters you send a month, and then tell us a little bit about your process from classifying or bucketing. These are the people that we need to move on today. These are the people that we maybe need to bake, and maybe I'll have one of my buyers, for example, go and track them down later. Tell us a little bit about your marketing so that they can kind of understand like how Will closes this many deals a month.
It starts with tracking. How many calls did you get? In the beginning, I'm getting 30 leads. How many leads does it take for you to close a deal?
Okay.
So then you'll have like a close ratio. Like I always ask, what's your number? So if I do this driving for dollars, every 30 calls I get a deal. So how do I get 60 calls?
Right.
So you've got to do that marketing. There's a cost per buy every time the phone rings. Some marketing works a little bit better than others.
Right.
If you're just getting started, it's a numbers game. You might have to make 100 offers to get a deal. And then eventually knowing what that number is, by tracking it, you slowly get better and better and better. And those motivated sellers will stand out. Some of them are going to be retail. If you have leads coming in, you won't have time to sit there and try to square peg in the round hole. It's follow up with them, see how you can help them. If they come around, they come around.
So you have enough leads to cherry pick and not try and force square pegs into round holes. What do you recommend for the people before they get to your level of marketing to do with these things that are, because you have a choice, right? You either say, not a deal, I'm moving on, or I'm going to try and force this deal. What's some advice you can give people on forcing deals if they're not doing enough marketing to bring in that constant flow? Because you and I know it's all about volume, it's all a numbers game, but for the people who are, still kind of feeling this out, does this real estate investing business still work? I've got this one deal, show me how I do that, and then I'll do some more marketing. Sort of, chicken and the egg thing.
Ask a lot of questions. An example was a property we made an offer and the lady was not going to budge off that price. She had some tenants in there. She was not going to kick out the tenants. So I sent a contractor over to the house and we were looking at the house. She was kind of firm on her number. I was trying to get my number down. And she knew what my offer was and she basically said no. But we were in the driveway just kind of chit-chatting. It was the middle of summer. And I said, you live in a house just like this, same size, right? And she was like, yeah. And I said, what does your AC bill run? And she goes, oh, it's not that bad. She goes, we don't have an AC. And I was like, what? It was hot.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, we don't have an AC.
It's going to be like 100 degrees here today. Yeah.
And I was like, I was just kind of shocked. And I said, well, she goes, we have a window unit, but it doesn't work, so we don't ever use it. And I just looked at her. I said, when we close on this house, I'm going to have my crew come over and put a brand new entire system in your house. And she just kind of looked at me real weird. And I said, let's go. Boom. We took off, went and looked at it. There was no AC. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, if we buy that house, then, we'll put it in. And Didn't even talk about price. The very next morning at 7:30, she called me. Called me at 8:30, called me at 9:30, and called me at 11. And when are you coming with a contract? When are you coming with a contract? And didn't even discuss
How
price.
did you even know, like, to bring up the AC? I mean, what?
I was making just conversation,
Okay,
just asking.
okay.
You know, I had no idea.
Okay.
It just randomly, and then the thought of her not having air conditioning in summer,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, we're gonna put one in. I just wanted to do
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
you know. So, done deal.
So when you're
The motivation was there.
When you're talking to someone, are you like just the facts, going for the throat, or are you trying to build a relationship and then kind of see where that relationship takes you? As part of your seller interview process.
Yes, I completely. The more information you get, the more options you have to help the client. You know, as you go down the path, and this is like you keep constantly learning.
Right.
You know, like we have an assisted moving program.
Explain what that is. Yeah.
It's basically, well, how it came about was basically I went and met a seller. He was distressed. Mother-in-law was in a wheelchair, lived in a house, were behind on taxes. The neighbor next door, they own that house, quit paying rent. That's what they were using to live, pay their bills. He quit paying, tax bills. Oh, they were stressed. Went in, talked to him, did make an offer. What are you needing? Oh man, we can't afford this. The neighbor's not paying. Told me the whole situation. I didn't walk the house. I didn't estimate repairs. I was just listening. What's their problem?
Right.
What do they need to have fixed? They had to move to find a new place. How are they going to sell the house? They don't want to deal with realtors. The house needs a lot of repairs. It's not going to sell.
I love people who don't want to deal with realtors. I'm a realtor and a broker, but I love people who don't want to deal with realtors because like if they're motivated, you're it. I mean, so I'm sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And so basically, I just listened to them, and for them, they didn't know what to do. And so I said, I remember asking the question. I said, well, if you could go anywhere, where would you go? And it's like they had never even thought of that. And I remember the wife immediately, we want to be in the country, and I saw her just stand. She stood up, lit up, and then said that.
Yeah.
And then the husband kind of stood up and says, I want to pay cash for the property. And so I'm just kind of making notes, just listening to what do they need. Well, how are y'all going to move? Well, they were elderly. He wanted to be able to move, and he was 1 year from his retirement kicking in.
Okay.
And so he needed enough to make,
Right.
well, how much is
Right.
that? X.
Yeah.
And I'm just listening, asking questions,
Yeah.
And I said, if, and this is kind of how it came about, I said, well, if we could put together an assisted moving program where we bring you the boxes, you load everything up, and I have our movers come in and do your entire move, would that help you? And they were just like, oh, man, that would be awesome. So by talking to them, I painted a picture of
Right.
what the end would be like.
Right.
They don't have to do the move. They don't have to do, just taking that pressure off. I could just see it coming off. Well, what about
Right.
the neighbor? I said, well, I'll take care of the neighbor. What is he paying? X, we got to get him to move. So I said, at that point I went and talked to the neighbor, asked him how, everything was, he didn't want to move. So I said, well, what would it take? I offer the assisted moving program to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted a flat fee to move.
Mm-hmm.
So I gathered all that information. Then we also took them to go look, price point based on what they wanted to buy. Went and looked at houses. We were going to make it move-in ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I had all that information, I said, look, we'll do this, this, this. You're going to get your retirement. We're going to move you guys. We're going to find a house that's going to be move-in ready. And then literally we put the whole deal together. And so we closed on their house. I dealt with the tenant. We gave him moving money so he could move. Closed on his house, gave him 30 days, found a house, did a light rehab on the house. Movers came in, did his entire move, moved the entire family, and it was just an awesome deal all the way around.
And everybody was happy.
Oh, they were ecstatic.
And you made a lot of money.
That deal, we made $48,000 assignment, and then at the end, he gave us a $2,000 bonus. He said, nobody would have done what you've done for me and my family. It was amazing. Thank you.
Finding the problem and understanding it is an art. You really do have to take the time to get to know someone. And I'll make a confession to you all that because of the number of short sales that we've done, I moved away from the getting to know you process, and I very much became a, you owe 150, the house is worth 145. This is a short sale or an amps, whatever, and at that point, there's no negotiating, right? I mean, there was no, finding something. There was no equity to be able to do some of these other things, and that sort of philosophy and that mindset and that flowed over into my equity deals, and it really started. Rusty. You get rusty and you get lazy. And it starts to kind of affect your business because you're like, I know this deal, I've seen this deal 1,000 times. I don't need to kind of go through this process. And a lot of the training that we go through is very much, here are all the questions that you ask. Sort of the art of building that relationship and spending that time to find out, what do you need? What are you looking for? What have you tried? What do you want to do? If I did this, would this help? Where do you see yourself? What's your goal? Taking the time to ask those questions, listen to what they say, and just think creatively about putting a plan in place is, that was the only reason why you got that deal. It probably had nothing at the end of the day to do with your offer price. It had to solving the problem and getting them to where that they wanted to be. And I've seen many situations where, multiple investors have gone after the same deal, and it's not always the guy or gal with the highest offer that gets the deal.
Right.
It's the person who spent the time to build the relationship. It's the person who spent the time to solve the problem. And then last, it's about the money. Now, some people you'll meet who it's just like, they're motivated, but they can sort of help themselves out of that sort of a situation. For those people, it's building the relationship and it's price. But for people like what you've talked about, you've basically said, find the motivation, create a creative solution for the problem, and then let's talk about the price. But create that I couldn't imagine living in Texas and not having an air conditioning system. She probably tossed and turned all night, number one, because it's probably 85 degrees in the house, or higher, just sort of thinking like, man, this could be the last night that I am like sweating all night long trying to go to sleep.
That was a game changer for her.
So great stories, and I hope you guys listening can kind of see how you can implement some of these strategies. And it's not a step one, step two, here's the questions you ask. It's just like talking to the person like they're a real person, like you're actively trying to and really want to create that solution, that relationship's going to come about, and you're going to find yourself with more opportunities than the average person who's just like.
It's one thing I tell my students is it's literally like if they call you and they have a problem, it's a lot of times you don't want to talk and you hang up the phone, you get it's like put a little pebble where it hurts in your gum, and that's what that other person is feeling, and you can't take it out until you fix their problem, because if you hang up the phone, you're like, whew, got off the phone, they still have the pain. They're going to start calling somebody else until they can get that pain to go away. So that's what I see as a lot of the different deals that I do. When you talk to the sellers, listen to what they say, listen to what they don't say.
Give me an example of what they don't say.
We had a property, the lady actually lived in San Antonio, was selling a property in Galveston, and we were kind of finagling on price. I was trying to get a little bit lower, and she says, well, I need to go there and get some of the articles and things out of the house, and I was like, okay. Called her a week later, same thing. She was going to come down. She goes, well, do you have plans on coming down? She was like, well, I got to go rent a car. And I'm like, rent a car? She was elderly. I could tell on the phone. And I was like, man, she's going to go rent a car, drive down from San Antonio to Galveston.
Which means it will never happen.
Yeah. And I'm like, she hasn't done it in the past 8 years. What's going to happen? So, bing. Well, actually, we have an assisted moving program. Maybe we can incorporate it. Why are you coming down to the house? Well, she wanted to get this. And I said, well, what if we have it shipped to you? Have it delivered. And she was like, do you do that? And I said, sure. She goes, well, I don't remember all the stuff that's in my house. I said, well, tell you what, get my flip cam and I'll walk through the house. Well, I don't have internet. I'm going to send it to you on a DVD. And you hit play, call me and we'll watch the video together and I'll make sure I get all the different things that you want. Oh my gosh, the very next day, boom, contract got signed. Got mailed back to us. I was like, wow.
So,
that was her pain. She wanted the stuff out of the house.
Right. So, Will, can you afford, so today where your business is, can you afford to do that still today? Can you still afford to build that relationship and go through that process?
It's key.
Okay.
If I don't do it.
So you never stop doing it. Okay.
It's
because some people might say, oh, well, this one's going to be kind of a hassle, so we're going to go on to the next one. So
you have that option.
Sure.
I do get selective. With some of the deals, but just like the guy, I never stop trying to go that extra mile. That's just me and my personality.
Okay.
But just like the guy that we moved out to the country, we did everything. Everything. I remember just the septic guy. Hey, take a look at it, but I need you to be there at 5:30. You need to show this guy how the system works, how everything does, and give him a 3-month supply of the tablets.
Right, yeah.
And one of the things he had told us was, I said, man, we need to get insurance. Man, I don't know about getting in. You need to get the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the money. Just, I'll be by, get a cashier's check for this amount. I personally went by, picked it up, went to the insurance place, paid his insurance, make sure he had it.
Right.
Extra mile. That doesn't affect me. It's but it's the right thing to do. I think it was about 9 months later he called us, and they were in the shelter. I get goosebumps when I hear the story. But him and his whole family were in the shelter. The wildfires up in Tomball were going through the neighborhoods.
Okay.
And so it actually went through his neighborhood. And so I was like, is everything okay? Yeah, we're great. He goes, I'm not worried because I have insurance on the house.
Oh, man.
I was like, whoa. Man, I felt, that was going that extra mile that made me really like, whew, I'm glad I didn't snuck off on that.
So did he just call you to tell you?
He called my assistant and told him, that he goes, yeah, everything's good and we're not worried. I was like, wow.
Has doing any of that going the extra mile stuff with your existing client helped to bring you referrals?
How could I get more referrals? It does.
I'm not saying
It's not. It's not a huge.
Glad to hear your house burned down, but you had insurance. Send me anybody who needs. So what do you do?
When we did I don't get too many referrals. Surprisingly, but even with the whole process when we were going house hunting with initially the same client, we hired a realtor up in Tomball. She was showing us properties, and I remember I love feeling odd or out of place, in a lot of the things, and I remember he was saying, well, I'd like to do this. I said, man, I wouldn't get it. You need to get insulation. The realtor's looking at me like, why are you blowing the deal, By the second or third property, I was telling him every little thing. We'd like to have gas. I said, I'll see if I can get, gas, because I was going to tailor it to what he wanted. And she's just kind of looking at me. She's like, so
what's your relationship?
Yeah, y'all family? I was like, no, he's a client of ours. Client?
Yeah.
And it was just, by the end, she goes, how can I get my clients into this program?
Okay.
And I was like, well, it's not really a program. He's just a client. We're buying his house. And that's when I knew that's the direction I needed to be going, because it stood out that much, They did actually, after they bought, they had family members calling us wanting to do the same thing. We couldn't do it because we're not buying their house, but we did get calls, and but it's not what we do.
So let's step back one step to marketing. So for the people out there who are new, and I'm going to ask you this question 2 different ways. For the people out there who are new to real estate and don't have any money, what are the top 3 marketing strategies you recommend? And then for the people out there who are new but have money, maybe because they work a full-time job, what are the top 3 marketing strategies you recommend for them?
Marketing when you're getting started. You can put ads in the green sheet and really cheap things. The cost per buy is going to be probably still about the same, but you're going to have to put in sweat equity. When I say driving for dollars, that's where you find a neighborhood that you like and you drive that neighborhood. Tall grass, vacant houses, things like that.
The motivated seller flag, have you ever seen that one?
No.
That's the blue tarp on the roof.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I never heard that. That's pretty good.
I just made it up recently and I love it.
Yeah,
so.
no, that's good.
Go on.
And you drive a neighborhood. The key, though, a lot of people will drive a neighborhood and they'll come out with 10 addresses.
Yeah.
That's not enough. You got to pick out, out of 200 houses in a neighborhood, pick out the worst 100. You still have to get your letters out.
Okay.
So that's one thing people I drove all day and I got 10 addresses. Just pick the worst ones, but you still got to come out. You have to drop 100 letters at least. You can handwrite them yourself. Make copies. Don't handwrite every envelope because a lot of people have done that. But send out those letters. Get your message out. Be consistent. That's the other thing. If you have $100, spend $25 a week. If it's $500, spend $125. But be consistent. You're not going to keep spending.
What happens when people get off the wagon, or what happens when people are spending just $500 and I didn't get anything or nothing happened, so I'm not going to do it again this month? What happens when people get off the wagon?
Nothing.
Have you ever gotten off the wagon?
I
mean, off the wagon.
I'm sure
normally,
you stop marketing.
You're on the wagon. That means that's
moving.
normally good. Okay. Yeah.
If when you get off, it stops.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. And I mean, there's a learning curve, and it's the long-term game. It's not the next 30 days. It's not the next deal. It's 2 to 5 years from now. Where are you going to be? And so there's a learning curve that you go through. Even if you're just dropping 25 a week, you might get a couple of calls.
Right.
And, if the phone rings, you're going to answer it. Imagine where you're at 2 years from now, only getting 2 calls a week.
So,
you still get a deal.
We talked about, sending out marketing and maybe not getting a call, and you just kind of have to get back in the saddle and keep doing it. So what about the people, the investors who will send out the marketing and holy crap, this works, and then they're working on that deal and then they stop the marketing? So
it's going to stop again. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent,
and that's one of the things that we do. Sometimes, like for a lot of our internet marketing, it's like leads have really fallen off in the last month, and I might say something like, I want to reduce it here and I want to put it there, and Phil's like, no, we will always spend this amount of money on our internet, and he's very and he's right. And it's the consistency, and it's the kind of letting it ride, and that it's it is a ride. I mean, a lot of investors I joke, it's like billionaire bankrupt, because there's always just it's an ebb and a flow. It's not always on the exact same track. So driving for dollars. Direct mail marketing on those houses. What else is the third strategy for people with not a lot of money but a lot of time? So people are doing sweat equity.
Some people I never done them, but Craigslist postings and things like that. It's a lot more numbers. If you're starting off, it's a great place to learn negotiations and things like that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's key.
I agree.
Internet works well, but that's a whole nother animal.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah, and it's. Just having a website, it's like having a billboard in the desert. It doesn't.
Right.
It's one of those things of bringing traffic, conversions.
Traffic leads to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't start there, but.
Do you guys do bandit signs?
Oh yeah, bandit signs.
Okay. All right.
It's been a while since I've done this, but yeah.
Okay. So those are for the strategies for the people with not a lot of money but time. So talk about the people who are working a full-time job, which I know a lot of our students are, working a full-time job, can commit some money to it because they have income coming in, but can't commit as much time to it. What do you recommend for those folks?
Direct mail, as opposed, driving for dollars.
Like buying a list, you mean, and then direct mail?
I don't buy lists. I like creating my own.
Okay.
I've never bought a list.
Okay.
Because if the list is bad, why is it bad? Well, I know what my search criteria was, so I can go in and tweak it and make it better. But you can buy lists. I know a lot of people that buy lists. Mainly direct mail.
But you pull a list, like you pull lists from like a real list or something, right? Okay,
right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
I do, and I put my search criteria based on a subdivision and
right.
things like that.
Right.
It's one of those. If you have money and you full-time job, they're going to do the same things, just more of it.
Okay.
Instead of putting out your own bandit signs with the sweat equity, you hire somebody to put them out.
Right.
Instead of putting out 50 a week, you can put out 400 a week.
Right.
So to me, the marketing part's still the same. There's things you're going to do to tweak and make it better. Placement of bandit signs makes a difference.
Yes.
Put it here in the intersection where both people can see it. You're going to get more calls.
Right. I think at the end of the day, what you're saying is marketing works. You do have to do it consistently, and that's really the secret at the end of the day, just to do it very consistently. And That's been key in our business when the market's been up and then when the market's when the market's been down. What did you so you've been through up markets, you've been through down markets. How did your business change in up market versus down market? What did you do different? Like right now your market's on fire. And it's for me as a real estate educator, trainer, coach, mentor. Some of my students, and I love you guys, but some of you drive me crazy, and you'll say, when the market's bad, oh, well, there are no deals out there because the market's bad. And when the market's on fire like it is now, oh, well, there are no deals out there because there's so much competition. What do I do?
What you focus on expands, and that's the thing is like.
Say that one more time.
What you focus on expands. I can't find a deal. Well, you're right. You can't. I can't. Because how do I find a deal? I don't know. I got to go out and look. Looking back, I remember when the market changed during all the investors dropped and like 70% of my buyers on the list disappeared. And how do I find a deal? Which I was getting deals because nobody was buying. The investors stopped because of the financing and everything. And I remember, how do I get this deal to close quickly? And I remember it was a challenge. It started to become a little bit of a challenge to sell them because people weren't buying.
Right.
And I got to move these deals. And I remember I stuck a bandit sign in a yard, and that's how I moved during that bad time. People stopped buying. People are always still buying houses.
Right.
It's just people on my list were not buying houses.
In fact, the really, really smart people are actually the ones who are buying during the down market. But there's some psychological, it's like the Warren Buffett gene only got Warren Buffett, right? And skipped everybody else.
The emotions kick in, and they get scared, and like, oh. But I remember during that time, I went into a real estate meeting, and this was, everybody was talking about it, and I remember I felt weird. I felt like I went through a time warp, and they were talking about how hard it was to sell and all this, and I was just kind of looking around. I'm like, what are they talking about? I knew the market had changed, but I don't sit there and dwell on it. I guess the sky's falling. I just went out and did my thing, and I remember I felt so out of place. They were talking about how you can't do this, you can't do that, and I'm like, the market to me was way easier because at the time prior to that, we were doing hard money. So you'd had to do inspections. The hard money lenders were even more critical because they were taking houses back. And so it became a challenge. But I was selling to cash buyers. And they would I'd take it. Boom, done, I got paid. And it was easy. I was closing deals left and right.
So your buyer list converged on just the
My email list was gone because they were all the investors. What I did was we put a bandit sign in the yard. Like one of them, there was a guy called us. The property was listed on MLS at 80. We contracted it for 30 because he couldn't move it. I put a sign in the yard. A guy that lived in the neighborhood who had mattress money, wanted close to his family or whatever, bought it for 36. So I took my 6. Talking to the other investors, man, you're leaving too much money on the table. No, I'm taking the money that's there.
Right.
Man, it's too good of a deal for him. No, he was prepared. He's got the cash.
Right.
The opportunity came, and he pounced on it. Just because he's getting it 50 cents on the dollar, seller's happy, I'm happy, he's happy, he got a great deal, boom.
I have seen a lot of investors just go down because they're trying to get too much, and they're not taking advantage of the offer that's on the table. And I've met several like that, and it's sad. And it sometimes creates more opportunity for us to you got to keep the lights on and you got to take if that's the offer you have and it's the only offer you have and you need to move it, that's all there is to it.
I used to give myself 2 weeks to move it at my price, so whatever I'm trying to get. If it doesn't move, then even if I have to $0 assignment out, I'm going to do whatever it takes to close because I still want to close for that seller.
Right.
And I get to keep whatever the difference is.
Right.
If you focus, I got to make 6, okay, then you're in trouble. So I never focused on the number, but during that bad time, that's how I sold stuff cheaper. Okay, but it was cash. It's funny. The set of problems that I had was during that time was. Closings got delayed because the sellers brought cash to the title company. You can't do that. And it's like I never really ran into that, but it was like, cool, I'm having these issues while everybody else is talking about how bad the market was.
Right.
But that's how I got through it. It was just
So-
we sold them with bandit signs
Okay.
to local
Okay.
people in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Did your marketing change at all during that time period?
No, it was.
Okay.
It's my marketing is pretty much, it's bandit
Okay,
signs, letters,
yeah,
direct mail,
yeah.
internet. It's pretty much remained.
So
Remained that the whole time?
there's, our market in Austin went down about 33% in terms of volume of houses sold on the MLS from a 2006, 2007 high to, everybody got a 1/3 haircut, for 2009, 2010, 2011, and probably the first half of 2012. And there was just so much just negativity out there, and palpable, right? I mean, and for the people who are committed, it's like, no, we're gonna sort of like, we reinvented ourselves. We reinvented what we did and our offering, because we realized that when we were doing so many short sales, it's not that people it's not like we have fewer broke, no equity motivated sellers, but we have fewer buyers who can get those loans to buy those short sales. And so we just sort of reinvented the wheel, and we became sort of the hub to assign mortgages. And it took some creativity, but we knew we were in it for the long haul, and we knew that we didn't want to change our standard of living, and we knew that there was opportunity there. And I hear today constantly all these investors whining and crying about hedge funds. So you're telling me you've got some guy out there who's spending somebody else's money, and they'll spend 90 to 95 to 100 cents on the dollar to take down a house, and you're telling me that you can't find a way to get another house for 80 cents on the dollar. It's not a 70% of ARV minus repairs deal, but get it for 80 cents on the dollar and resell it to this other guy for 90 or 95 cents. It's like, figure out a way to make lemonade out of lemons. And in the market, all investors need to understand, when the market's going down, it's always easy to buy and hard to sell. When the market's going up, it's always hard to buy and easy to sell. I'd rather be in the hard to buy and easy to sell market any day and every day, but you have to just be the student of the market. You have to continue your marketing, and the right people are still in there. I mean, the cash buyers are still there looking for those types of opportunities, especially when the market's low. It's just sort of getting out of your personal psychology and feeding that to other people. I'm going on way too much.
It's not what that's one thing that I do, is it's not what I think. I always put myself in the buyer's perspective. What is he looking for? Mm-hmm. Because then if I do that, it's always easy to sell. Mm-hmm. I'll know right away. No, hey, Charlie will buy this one because I know. And I ask buyers a lot of questions. Why do they buy? What do they do? Just with that information, it gives me a good pulse. But that's all I do. Day one to today, buy low, sell it for a little bit more.
Right.
Whatever that is, retail, owner finance.
One of my highest wholesale deals was actually probably in 2009. It was because I had the right buyer, and I knew what that buyer wanted, and I found that buyer that property. And even when the market was in the crapper. So there are still opportunities out there. You just have to work a little bit harder to reinvent them.
There's always people with estate problems and everything.
So we've talked about some of the things that we see investors do right and do wrong. Some of the things that I've done wrong. Some of the things you've done right and you've done wrong. In general, like tell us what for you differentiates a good investor who's going to be investing and successful for the long term versus someone who's going to just try it, give out, peter out. What are some of those differentiating factors?
One is thinking long term. If this guy is a wholesaler, is bringing you a deal and you beat him up every left and right, and he's trying to get this deal, just to, you pay closing costs, you might get the deal and close, but if you're not easy to work with, then a wholesaler is probably not going to call you first. Mm-hmm. So, think long term. A lot of the relationships that I built of investors, I still sell to this day.
Right.
You know, we have a really good relationship. I know what they like. You know, if they give me an offer, I'll ask, hey, is there any room to move?
Right.
But I don't push my profit onto them.
Right.
The numbers are the numbers. I need to do my job and get it cheaper. I'll make less on some. That's okay. And I'll make more on others.
Right.
So, because I think long term, I'd rather have the relationship than the dollar for the day. Second thing is keep it simple. We can complicate the heck out of things. And even when you get started wholesaling, you know, it's like, you know, you market, you make the offer, and then you sell it and you keep the difference. You know, well, I got this flux capacitor with the generator that I need to get, and I need to do this. And it's like, you know, I had a student that showed him how to make a marketing list, and he sent out a campaign of postcards. He was looking to wholesale so he could use that money to buy his first house, you know, and use that money for closing and things like that. He got a deal, looked at it, said, why don't you buy it? I was thinking about it. So anyway, he ended up buying the property, and then he rehabbed it, refied, got money back. Was in it with none of his own money. He was like, holy cow. Talked to him like, you know, 6 months later. How's it going? Man, I'm working on my second letter campaign. Second letter campaign? What do you mean? He goes, well, you're supposed to mail them 3 letters in 90 days or something like that. And I'm trying to get my second letter. Yeah. And I said, well, what list are you mailing? Well, I actually ordered a tax list with this. Yeah. It was only $700. And it's like, whoa. I mean, hold on, let me back up here. So you're not marketing because you're working on your second letter. You still got to do your third from a list that you paid $700.
Right.
Okay. How much did you pay for that first list? And he goes, no, it was $700. No, the first list you ever did. No, you showed me how to do that list. It didn't cost anything. Was it the second or third letter you sent that got you the deal? No, I just dropped him a postcard. Oh, okay. And he's like, ding, bell went off.
Yeah.
He's like, you're right. You did it, the best deal you've ever gotten, and you've never done it again.
Yeah.
And like you're talking about you just stop. So I think a bell went off because of all the different things, the shiny pennies with the 3 letters. It all works. I'm not saying the 90 days doesn't work better, but just keep doing whatever you're doing. Rinse and repeat.
So you are a big proponent of focusing, and you've gotten pulled in other directions, like being a landlord, fixing and flipping, and you've sort of decided in your mind that what you want to focus on is wholesaling. Tell us about that decision. And tell us how that allows you to just sort of maximize your time and your efforts, and what sort of puts you in that camp so strongly.
I think one, it's ADD, you know, because you're in and out. A rehab can take 5 to 6 months.
Right.
I'm the type that, you know, literally I have 10 spaces, and if I fill up the spaces with something like a rehab and this and that, I'm not as, you know, my RAM starts to go down.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why I like wholesaling. And I've noticed over the years, it's easy to, I would have leads that come up, man, I can keep this subject to, well, and then it sits on your desk for 2 or 3 days.
Yes, yeah.
Next thing you know, the leads pile up.
Yes.
And then you're not effective at anything.
Right.
So it's really nice to be able to have that, and you can make a decision, and within 5 seconds, boom, no, ooh. And then you focus on it. By having that clarity, when that good deal comes along, you can jump on it, immediately go to their house. You're not bogged down by all these other things.
So it's focus, and it's process, and it's leaving just, you know, even like some of the deals that you throw back, there might be something there for someone who has the time, ability, energy, whatever to track it down, but it's just kind of staying with that laser focus. And that's one of the things that's made you so successful. Yeah. How do you, you know, there's just so much out there. In fact, you know, I'll be perfectly honest with you, we're not laser focused like that. We, you know, for us, it's very expensive for us to get the phone to ring. So we want to make money off the deal whether it has 100% equity and, we just need to make the right offer, or whether there is no equity, in fact, negative equity. We want to make money every time the phone rings. And sometimes, I do have deals. I'll, open up. I do have deals that I've had sitting on my desk for a long time, because it's like, I know there's something there. I want to go get it, but I've got to sort of set all these other things into motion to be able to do it. And it's been sitting on my desk. So for you, I'm kind of seeing that vision of just, take it, get it, close it, move. Take it, get it, close it, move. And I think a lot of you guys out there could really take advantage of that philosophy to just get things done. I talked to an investor this morning who's been working on their website for like a year.
Yeah.
That depresses me, but it's the same thing. They've got, this comes up, that comes up, the other thing comes up, and they don't have time to focus on it and get it done. Well, there was something one of the last times we talked that you shared with me that was very personal to you. I'm kind of asking you if you'll open up and share it with us again. But you had something that you say to yourself every morning. And just to kind of set the right mindset and set the right attitude, and just really kick your day off. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah. This is my book. I keep everything in it.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
actually, it's funny that you said that. I can open it up and it's right there.
Okay.
I look at it every day. I'm a big in what you tell yourself. Like there's kids start their day and all that. You've got to be your own pep rally. And so I actually have this on my bathroom mirror as well. And it's my daily affirmation. I think I got it from Zig Ziglar. Basically, I, William Denker, am an honest, intelligent, goal-directed, organized, responsible, committed, and punctual individual. I'm highly motivated, optimistic, enthusiastic, positive, and focused self-starter. I'm also decisive, competent, disciplined, persistent, knowledgeable, creative, and resourceful team player who makes good choices. I'm emotionally intelligent, confident believer, and an extra miler. I'm energized, have great self-control, healthy self-image, and manage myself well. These are the qualities of a winner I was born to be, and yes, I am a winner.
I love it. Gosh, when I heard that, that really resonated for me.
It just pumps
you get
up.
what you focus on.
Yeah.
You said it right at the beginning. You get what you focus on, and you've got to focus on the right stuff. You hear a lot of people who say, well, of course this bad thing's going to happen to me. It's like, that's just how, I always get the bad side of the deal. It's like, you're getting what you focus on.
You're getting education. That's the way I look at it. I just twist it to where it's there's a lesson in everything that we do. It's like that bad thing. No, you had a chance to grow, because I don't know, I guess I just look at it that way of there's a lesson in everything. Even the deals that if I don't get a deal, it's like, I know a lot of wholesalers go back and look and they'll see another wholesaler get a deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't mean it's sold.
Right.
They might be wasting all this time on
Right.
it and you're not.
Right.
But the daily, if you slowly, and we all get down, you read this,
Sure.
you get pumped
Sure.
up.
Sure.
You've got to feed it. It's not just something you just say a couple of times and go away. You've got to hear it every day. It's just like you do with your kids. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it.
I think you're spot on, and mine. So what I do is a little shorter, and sometimes if Phil is down or I'm down, we both each say the same thing to each other, and it's very simple, and it's just go work harder, go figure it out, work harder, you can do it.
That's it.
Just go get it done. Stop being down about it. Stop being depressed about it. Stop worrying about it. Just go work harder. Get it done. That's it.
That's it. There's no options. That's perfect.
And once I am happiest when I am, working really, really, really hard. I'm not happy when I'm, focusing on the negative. I'm not happy when I'm not doing anything. And you've got to sort of have this, emotional feed. And I mean, you guys know, Phil and I, we're not the secret people. We're not the, you think it, you can get it, folks. We're not the pep. We're not, we want you to go out there, work hard and kick ass, but we're not like the personal pep rally. But a lot of people need that.
Yeah.
And,
They need that
a lot of
strength
people have that missing from their, from their childhood, whatever. So having some of these affirmations really kind of help you get through to take it, to sort of get out of your own mind, like, stop thinking about you. And I tell people, everyone who says, well, you can't do that, a seller would never go for that. It's like, divorce yourself from your own situation, because you're great, you're successful, you're this, that, and the other. This person who's calling you is in trouble. You've got to separate, get out of your own mind, and sometimes that helps you do that. So Will is Mr. Systems. Will is Mr. Wholesale. And part of being Mr. Systems and part of being Mr. Wholesale is that he's taken the time to systematize and package and productize all of the things that are in his head, all of the things that have made him successful even through the worst, worst recession that you and I have ever lived through, certainly. And to be sitting here today smiling, happy, and with our stuff together, right? So tell us a little bit about what you created. So and I think you did this in the exact same way that Phil and I did this. After a while, you had 50 people inviting you to lunch every single day. After a while, you had people saying, please come speak to our group. Please come, talk to me about this. Please help me with this. I see you're successful, and you created this when the market was down, right?
It was a couple years ago, but
yeah. I mean, so, you were showing people how to dig out of, their own mind and their own consciousness, and you systematized something to show people how to do exactly what you do and how to be as successful as you've been. Can you talk a little bit about that? And
it came about, just like you said, to save time. That was initially, because I kept
He's
saying
big on
the same
time. Like,
thing.
I've got to, I've got to get a return. Yeah.
If I have a video, they can go watch the video.
Right.
And then it ended up being a bigger project, So, but anyway, so we created the wholesaleproject.com. And it's basically everything you need to know getting started. I would sit down and just, what do I do? How do I, manage the leads and everything else?
How you manage the leads, how you talk to them, how they go
seller
through
negotiations. We have live seller calls.
Live seller calls, and you'd be surprised at. I've listened to some of them, and it is just as simple. I mean, it's not simple, but it's a mindset of just right. I was just looking at that. Success is simple, but not easy. Yeah. So it just so much of it is just talking and just building that relationship and building that rapport and just throwing spaghetti on the wall. So you go through. He has recorded many of these, and it's awesome to listen to. It's inspiring to listen to. So tell me what else about it?
It's basically all the video training of what we do for marketing, how I create my lists, seller negotiations, dealing with sellers. There's a bunch of stuff in there. I don't remember all the different stuff, but
like assignments of
contracts,
going through like a house repair stuff,
repair analysis. What do I keep in my car? The packets, the toolkits, basically all the stuff that I still do to this day.
Okay.
For getting deals. And the main thing is it's simple. It's just I don't have enough money to buy a computer and have this program. And I mean, I keep up with my lists. We do some computer stuff now, but literally just on my desk. The hot leads are right here. Start with the properties that are set to close, then go back, do follow-ups. That's another key. Always follow up with your leads. Motivated, not today, can change.
Right.
30, 60, 90 days from now.
So I know you've taken a lot of people through this program. And I know when I listened to you present, I guess last year, I got a lot of great stuff out of it because I'm always learning and I'm always sort of adopting and taking from other people's best practices, and there's really a lot of great stuff in there. Now, do you have like a video series they can kind of check out too that we could maybe share with our folks, just kind of give them an idea of what a little bit more about the wholesale project?
We have some intro videos that are on the front of it. If you just go to the wholesaleproject.com and type it in, there's I think it's the nine questions to ask the seller, and some starter. So I don't remember all the everything that's in there. But
you can tell he's not being shy right now. He probably doesn't remember everything that's in it, because this is not like, Will's not a guru. As I heard someone say the other day, Will's a duru. So he's out there actually doing it. This is just something that he's done that's sort of, that's scalable, that he's been able to systematize so that he can focus on what he does and what he loves, which is, doing the deals and going through the transactions and wholesaling deals. So it's real, live, honest to goodness stuff, and just listening to getting that other perspective on doing this, I think would be really invaluable to you guys. So what we'll do is I'll have Will send out some messages to just kind of give you guys a little bit more information about the wholesale project and how you guys can use it to help you and your business and stay focused, and just get a little bit more information from Will. Will is someone that Phil and I both really respect and love to kind of watch him out there operating, and we love to turn you guys on to people that we know that are people of integrity, people are out there actually doing this, and Will is certainly that person. So I know we've taken up a lot of your time. I really appreciate you sharing with us here. I know that it's hard to kind of pull you out of your business, and I really, really appreciate you sharing, not just with me, but with the folks who are listening here. And I'm just glad to be able to kind of spend a little more time together. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, and I appreciate all the lessons that I'm learning with you and Phil, and it's a process. And for everybody else out there, man, just take that first step.
Yes.
Don't put all this pressure. I got to do this. I got to do that. Just keep it simple, and that's kind of what the wholesale project. It's simple. I still do everything that's in those videos. I still do the same thing today.
Perfect.
It's a process. Just learn. So,
awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you guys for watching and joining us on the National RIA, and we'll see you next time.
Take action.
Bye-bye.